Alright guys, what is going on? BusterBarnes here, bringing you my recap / review of Chelsea's 0-0 draw at home to Wolves in the Premier League. Thomas Tuchel's first game in charge of the Blues, our first game as well without Frank Lampard as manager. I will be giving you guys my brief overview of the match, as well as my player ratings and my player of the season point scoring system. I'll also be talking about some of the things that Thomas Tuchel has said before the match, after the match, and during his press conference today, where he was released to the media, if that is the correct term. But if you guys do enjoy, as always, these reviews, please be sure to leave a like, comment down below your player ratings and your general thoughts on Tuchel's Chelsea and how it's looking for you. And as always, do subscribe for more Chelsea FC content. But like I said, this was not only the first game with Tuchel, it was the first game without Frank Lampard. You guys can check out my video just basically reacting to the news about Frank Lampard being sacked. Unfortunately, obviously, like most Chelsea fans, we all wish that Frank was still the Chelsea manager. But yeah, unfortunately, this is how it goes. He's not, and we all just need to now get behind Thomas Tuchel. And it seems like it's hopefully going to be quite easy to do so, as he does seem to be saying a lot of the right things, seems to have a very good attitude at the moment since coming into Chelsea, which will hopefully spell good things for the club. But there were, and rightfully so, a lot of question marks about who was going to start, what the formation was going to be. People were worried about maybe the youth, because besides Frank Lampard, we've not really had any manager that has shown any faith in the youth. All Tuchel really had was a 1-hour training session. So when we did see the line-up against Wolves, some of us were actually quite a bit surprised. We actually saw a three at the back. We saw Edouard Mendy retain his place in goal. We saw Rudiger, Silva and Azpilicueta, the captain, as the three centre-backs. The two wing-backs being Ben Chilwell on the left and Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right, which I think actually surprised quite a few people. It was reported before the lineup was released, but I think some people are thinking this seems like a very odd choice, but that is how it did go. Jorginho and Kovacic were the two in midfield, and the front three with sort of more inside forwards were Havertz, Ziyech and Giroud up front. We did see later substitute appearances from Pulisic, Abraham and Mason Mount, and maybe a big omission to some Mason Mount, but Thomas Tuchel has said before the game, after the game and in his press conference that he just thought that with his first game in, with only a 1-hour training session, with a big turnover in managers and staff, he thought that it would be best to go with some more experienced players and put the pressure more on their shoulders than the younger players. He didn't doubt that players like Mount could deal with the pressure, and I'm sure we all know that players like him could, but that's just what he will decide to go for, and I think it's pretty much fair enough. I don't think we can really take too much from this lineup, really. I'm not even sure if we'll see more three at the back formations from him. I think he actually might have sort of insinuated that someone sort of told him and notified him that playing a three at the back against Wolves could be a good start, so maybe that's more of the reason why he's done it. He's played three at the back before with PSG, but I think we'll probably see a lot of different formations, a lot of different teams under Tuchel, as he does like to rotate players tactically and based on opposition. So that could be very fun actually for us if it does work out well. But I'm just going to talk about the game mainly as an overview. I could go half to half, but it was 0-0, and to be honest, it wasn't the most exciting game. Pretty much due to two things. I do think that a lot of our players were playing fairly safe, not all of them, but a few of them are playing quite safe. Obviously a new manager, maybe don't want to make mistakes, don't want to slip up. And also Wolves, I mean, they pretty much had 8 players behind the ball the entire time. They made it very hard. They weren't really looking to attack, had maybe 2 attacks the entire game, which weren't necessarily bad attacks, but basically, you could just tell they were coming for a point at Stamford Bridge, and that is what they got, to be fair to them. Against the Chelsea side that haven't been the best at scoring from open play in the leagues as well lately, so it was always going to be a tough ask, and I don't think a draw against Wolves is the worst of starts for Tuchel. We do forget as well, Wolves are a good team, even if they're not on the best of form at the moment. We all know that they are still a team that could easily finish in the top half of the Premier League table. So yeah, I think some things that I noticed from the start, I definitely noticed a bit of an up in energy, but you always would sort of notice that with a new manager coming in. Kovacic, I think, looked very good in the first half, which might have been, might have annoyed me a little bit, because you sort of think, oh, you're playing like this now, why couldn't you play like this under Frank? But that is just how it sort of goes with these manager turnovers, unfortunately. I thought that Havertz definitely stepped up his game a bit. Maybe some other players I still wasn't too impressed with. I think Giroud maybe messed up a few chances. In hindsight, which is a lot easier to say than when the game starts. I do think that maybe a different striker up front could have been a bit of a better choice, as when we did try and put crosses in that were maybe a bit ahead of the players, or we did try and actually put some through over the top balls in, and Giroud just wasn't really fast enough to get to them. So maybe someone like Abraham should have started, but I had no problem with Giroud starting before the game, so this is mainly just me speaking in hindsight. Ziyech I thought was maybe a little bit one-dimensional. He did use his right foot a few times, but he was definitely trying to get on his left foot quite a lot. I'm not too sure if the more inside role suited him. Maybe he'd be a bit more suited actually a bit further out wide. I'm not too sure. But really the main person that I wanted to talk about was Callum Hudson-Odoi. Throughout the entire game, started a right wing back. If you did see the squad's average positions, it did sort of mainly look like a four at the back formation, because Aspi was a bit more up out the right, and I think that's mainly the phases. When we're attacking, it probably will look like a four at the back more often than not. But yeah, obviously we didn't have to defend much in this game, so it's kind of hard to say. But Hudson-Odoi did do his fair bit of tracking back, and there was actually a good situation that Wolves found themselves in when the ball was lobbed over. Then Donker was in space, Hudson-Odoi gets back and makes the tackle and stops them from scoring late on. So doing very well there. He made a lot of great passes, I think key passes as well. Took on players, was very direct. And could have got a goal as well with a deflection that unfortunately didn't go in. I think he was definitely our standout player of this game, and it was really nice to see him start, because I don't think people would have expected us to maybe start him, or especially if we were going for three at the back formation. But I mean, yeah, he showed why he's a quality player, and it might be his best performance, might be one of his best performances for Chelsea, to be honest, especially starting and not coming off the bench. But the thing was, is as the game went on, I still think Hudson-Odoi was performing well. The defence didn't really have much to do in the sense of defending with Rudiger, Silva, Azpilicueta. I think Rudiger maybe had one of a shaky moment where he sort of headed the ball but not really making a good enough clearance of it. And yeah, with the midfield of Kovacic and Jorginho, it looked alright at the start, but once you're not scoring and the game goes on, you go into the second half, you still haven't scored. It gets very one-dimensional and boring, a lot of passes to each other around the sides, and I think at that point you do obviously need someone with a bit more creativity and directness. Which obviously Mason Mount did come on later, and this is probably the only flaw that I'd say in Thomas Tuchel's performance in his first game, to be fair, so this isn't really me slandering him. He probably made his substitutes a little bit too late. I don't think he made his first one until like the 70-something minutes, 72nd, 74th, and that was definitely a bit too late for me. So I do think that should have been done a bit earlier. However, I do think he made the right substitutions. I think Pulisic, I would have maybe put on Werner or Pulisic, didn't really mind the two, but I thought Abraham and Mount were definitely the right players to bring on. Mount definitely a little bit too late, I did think, and he still kept covering Jorginho once, so maybe a bit shifty there, I'm not too sure. But yeah, when those players came on, it definitely picked up the pace a little bit. We did have a few more opportunities, but just not really enough clear cut to try and win the game, unfortunately. But yeah, we've got to mention as well, though, with this lineup, that only Hakim Ziyech started this game from the players that started the game against Luton as well. So obviously we've heard the rumours about players being tired and overtrained by Lampard. Whether they're true or not, I don't know, but you can maybe imagine that Tuchel came in to his training session, maybe saw that some players were a bit fatigued, and actually went with just some players that were a bit more well rested. But he did also talk about the experience as well, so that's fair enough. On Mason Mount, Tuchel did say in his press conference today that he's got great personality, he loves the club, his desire, he leaves his heart on the field. I don't think we should be really that worried about Mason Mount, to be honest, guys. And it looks like Billy Gilmour will be staying as well, as Tuchel said that he has no reason to loan any players out. And I don't think he's necessarily 100% convinced on Gilmour yet, which I guess is understandable. He's a young player, quite small in size, but Tuchel knows that he's a smart, quick-paced player as well. So who knows what will happen with Gilmour. He did say that we're in 3 competitions currently, so he will be using the bulk of the squad of, I think, about 21, 22 different players as well. We also talked about Kante, saying where he thinks Kante's best position is, with a second player in the double six, which is quite cool, I think. It's nice to see a manager actually come out and say where they think Kante's best position is, and I actually agree with him as well. Nothing against Lampard playing Kante in that holding role. I think Kante did very well there for a bit of time, but maybe just at his age, you need someone sort of next to him to give him a bit more freedom, maybe take a little bit of the bulk of defending, just to offer him slightly, not loads, because he's obviously great at defending, but you guys do understand what I mean. But overall, in the performance, I thought it was a promising one. I think we saw some good things. Like I said, maybe some subs could have been made a bit earlier. I don't think every player plays well. I don't think Chilwell necessarily had his best game. I don't think Ziyech had a great game, or Giroud either. I think Havertz looked better than he has done, but still nothing outstanding. It was a lot of very average performances, I think, from a lot of players, bar pretty much Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount when he did come on the field, which will obviously move me on to my player ratings. Edouard Mendy and the three centre-backs are all going to get a 6.5 out of 10. As you guys know, I usually give 7 out of 10s for defenders keeping clean sheets. The reason that I haven't is basically just because Wolves didn't really offer anything going forwards. If anything, we cut them out a lot in the final third. Tuchel talked about our 16 recoveries in the final third. And we had like 78 possessions, so they weren't really called in action, the defence, so I'm just putting it down a little bit to 6.5s out of 10. Same with Chilwell. I don't think Chilwell was great going forward, and he was actually quite surprised when he was actually subbed off for Pulisic, who came on at the left wing back, which I thought was a nice positive move, putting Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi as the two wing backs. Pretty attacking stuff from Tuchel, which you do like to see from your manager. But I do think Chilwell deserves a 6.5 as well, because he did keep the clean sheet and he wasn't by any means way worse than anyone else. But Hudson-Odoi, the other wing back, is going to get a 7.5 out of 10. Obviously, he didn't get a goal or an assist, so I can't mark him up too high. But if there was going to be a goal or an assist, it was going to be from him. When he was right wing back, he came, bombing up and down that side, making some great runs, making some great crosses. A few crosses that someone should have got on the end of, but just didn't, which was a big shame. Took on players, did some really quick passing in tight spaces as well. I honestly thought it might have been one of his most complete performances as a Chelsea player so far for us. And also when he moved to the left, because when Pulisic came on, he moved to right wing back. Hudson-Odoi to left wing back. Hudson-Odoi was great there, more direct, and actually looked like he could have scored maybe a goal or assisted from the left as well. So just a pretty complete performance from him. I will say I don't know how I feel about Pulisic on the right. Obviously he's played that under Tuchel before, but I think if you have Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic on the same pitch together and you need to pick a side for each, I think you probably would go with Pulisic on the left and Hudson-Odoi on the right, because even though both are better on the left than they are on the right, I think that Hudson-Odoi isn't that far off ability-wise on the right, whereas I think there is definitely a bit of a gap between Pulisic's ability on the left and right-hand side. Maybe a bit surprised to not see Werner in this game, but I'm sure we'll see him eventually. I'm sure a big thing for him being brought in was to help those players, Havertz and Werner. He had a bit of a joke in his press conference about his nationality. He hopes, obviously, that's not the only reason he got brought in. I'm sure it isn't. It's to get, success. He says that obviously we're in competitions, the FA Cup, the Champions League. Says the Premier League title was a bit unrealistic, which I think we will have to agree with, but hopefully the top four is a thing that he is thinking of. Well, I'm sure it is, otherwise Lampard would not have been sacked if the club did not care about getting top four. But yeah, that's basically the back set of players, including the wing-backs ratings. Jorginho is going to get a 6 and Kovacic is going to get a 6.5. Kovacic getting the slightly higher marks. I did notice him a bit more in the first half. I do think some people overrated his performance, and I do think this happens with Kovacic a lot. I know you guys probably think that I'm harsh on him, but I just think that Kovacic is really good at something. He's really good at getting the ball out of tight spaces and, driving, I guess, forward, or just driving out of those tight spaces, I should say. But creative-wise, he doesn't really offer anything. He got very one-dimensional towards the latter end of the game. And, he wasn't even offering that much going forward before. I think he's just... I don't want to say like a one-trick pony or something, that's really harsh. I think he's a good player and will be very useful in certain games, but I'm still not convinced about him being a regular starter in this team. Jorginho I thought was pretty standard, an average performance from him. Didn't see anything that bad. Made some good tackles in the first half, but like I said, maybe it's just because of the way the game went. Maybe you'd be rating their performance a bit better if we won this game 1-0, but I think, with the way the score went, I don't think you can really rate them that much higher. Going to the front three, I'm going to give Hakim Ziyech a 5.5. Obviously, he's been injured, so you have to give him some leeway. He's sort of trying to find his feet again. Like I said, I'm not too sure if maybe the slightly more central role is better for him. Maybe he is better out wide. He was using his left foot a lot, which we all know is his favourite foot. We all know he'll do that, but maybe a couple more times where he could have just hit the ball with his right. There was maybe a few times he was being a bit more stubborn with which foot he put the ball onto. Havertz is going to get a 6. I think that out of the front three, he was probably the more promising one. Did a really nice run from about the centre circle up the pitch and pretty much into the opposition penalty box, so hopefully we are going to see the best of Havertz soon. It just takes time, which is why maybe Lampard should feel slightly aggrieved. He obviously got given all these new players, they need time to gel, and it's not like any of them have looked loads better in their first game since he's gone, so maybe feel a bit aggrieved by that, but like I said, what's done is done, unfortunately. Giroud's going to get 5 out of 10. I think maybe not to his fault. I think it was maybe the wrong selection in hindsight of him being up front. I think the way we played, we could have done with a bit more of a pacier, mobile striker. And I do think that Abraham should have probably started the game. Even maybe Werner would have made more sense in hindsight. But to be fair, I can't criticise too much because I wasn't that fussed when I saw he was starting before the game did go. But it wasn't a great performance from Olivier Giroud, which is interesting because obviously a lot of the players that featured today were a lot of the players who were fringe players under Lampard's, players that weren't maybe getting loads of game time. And I wouldn't really say that any of them really impressed. The one that mainly impressed the most was Hudson-Odoi. So interesting. I guess you could put it down to maybe players getting used to the new system. Like I said, one training session, but also maybe trying to be a bit safe and to not take too many risks and maybe mess something up to, affect their standing in the club. I mean, Hudson-Odoi, the only player that was taking risks, and they seem to pay off to the most part. If we go to the bench, though, Pulisic and Abraham both going to get a 6. I thought Pulisic was decent when he came on, but didn't really change the game too much from what he already was. Abraham didn't really have a chance either. Made a few good runs when he first came on and did definitely show his presence, but like I said, it was just a bit one-dimensional in the midfield. Couldn't really get the ball up that much. Wolves did have like 8 or 9 players behind the ball, so they did make it very, very hard for us, as Wolves have done for many teams this season. I'm going to give Mason Mount, though, a 6.5. Made the biggest impact when he came on. Did some great dribbles, got past players, some really nice play. He really showed why he deserves to be starting in this Tuchel side, and I think Tuchel should... I don't know what our team's going to be going into our next game against Burnley, guys. I don't think you can take a lot from this one in terms of formation or players. However, the one thing that I will say is I think that Hudson-Odoi and Mount both have to start the next game. I think they've earned it through their performances. Obviously, some players have to start as well, like Mendy has to start, Silva probably as well. But Hudson-Odoi, Mason Mount, the 2 big standouts for me in this game. And I think they both have to start against Burnley. So hopefully that is the case. Will be interesting to see who else is involved. Reece James didn't feature. Apparently there was a bit of a word saying that one player that did not feature in this game, Tuchel was said to have big plans for. Probably Timo Werner, I'm assuming, but could be Reece James, who knows. Like I said, I think once the formation changes, we'll see Reece James more. I don't see us keeping a back 3 for long. We might do the next few games, you don't know. But Tuchel does like a bit more of a 4 at the back, I think, or favours. But he's a very tactical coach, so I think our formation and personnel will change a lot. So I think that is something that could be very exciting, maybe frustrating eventually. But who knows? We haven't reached that bit yet. So hopefully it does just lead to some very good results for us. We have to beat Burnley when we face them. I think questions will be raised as to why maybe Lampard was gone if we don't beat Burnley. Hopefully we can get the result against them on Sunday, which my preview for that game will obviously be out on the day it is going to take place. But those were my player ratings, guys. Do let me know yours in the comments below. Player of the season point scoring system. I'm only going to give out 1 point this time around. It was a draw, a 0-0. No one really impressed by one player. That was Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's going to get the 1 point from me. Would have probably got more if we won the game, or he got a goal or an assist. But just the 1 point in what was a 0-0 performance, but definitely a promising one from him. He definitely deserves it. And if you do see on the screen how the points are tallying up, he's actually edging his way up, though. It's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Because he hasn't started loads of games, but he's definitely made his own presence known whenever he has features. So an interesting way that stuff is tallying up. But that was it, guys. That was Thomas Tuchel's first game. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I do have to say the guy is a great talker, it seems. His press conferences, very interesting. He seems like he's got a great personality, the one that we want. Some of the things that he's saying, like he wants teams to fear us, like how he doesn't just want to not lose, he just wants to be driven to win. The things that he said as well about the youth academy with his reputation, about wanting to push the youngsters. He's saying all the right things, basically, guys, in his press conferences. So, obviously, we'll see in the future if he acts on the things that he said, which will be very important. But I'd like to think that he will. He's very convincing. And, if you haven't checked out his press conference from today, I highly recommend you do so. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. Don't want to ramble on too long. If you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe for more Chelsea FC content. Hopefully we'll see a team that can beat Burnley on Sunday and kickstart our form in the Premier League. I do hope you guys all have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.